The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Kalshi, make real money predicting sports. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, that's Kalshi promo code SGPN for a free $20 at sign up. And welcome everyone to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Currently early Monday morning, January 26th, around midnight Eastern Time. I'm Rose, always Scott Reichel, once again going solo in this podcast. Initially, I was actually not supposed to be on the show. Terrell and Lonte were supposed to record a couple hours ago, but it didn't work out. So either way, now I'm recording solo a couple hours later. Apologies if you were waiting for the episode a couple of hours ago. But once again, yeah, kind of I don't really know what happened, but either way, apologies. But we're still doing the show. So either way, point is I'm by myself. I'll go through all the games in a second. Before we get into any of the actual once again, game previews, a reminder that if you want to actually check out all of the picks and podcasts for SGPN in one convenient location, you can easily access with the SGPN app, download the app in the App Store for free, completely free. So if you're tired of going through YouTube or Spotify or Apple to find each individual podcast for SGPN, easier way to do it, get the app. Free to get, and all of our podcasts are also posted there. So once again, SGPN app, free to download in the App Store. Check out the comment section quickly. I see Nora stopping by, Free Sauce stopping by, and I see Free Sauce threatening me to interact with the chat. Yeah, once again, hi. I see all of you in the chat. I don't really know what happened there a couple hours ago. Apologies, but once again, I was not supposed to be on the show today. So this is kind of something that happened last minute. But either way, I prepared the streams anyway, so I had everything ready to go. Anyway, moving on to the actual games here for Monday. Starting off with the Pacers taking on the Hawks. Hawks are laying 5.5. The over-under's at 232.5. Now, Indiana, last time we saw them, they had a great win against the Thunder on the road. Now, the Thunder also lost on Sunday to Toronto at home. So it seems like OKC is starting to have one of those, I'd say, lulls in the middle of the season again. But either way, Indiana still has not been good on the road this season, as they are 3-19. Better than, once again, I'll put it this way. Look, Indiana, we know, is not very good. At least they showed some effort in a revenge game against the team that beat them in the finals. But either way, they're still a really bad team, one of the worst teams in the entire league. For Atlanta, we know this team has been pretty, I'd say, underwhelming post-trade, but they've been better lately, as they were able to beat Memphis, and they ended up beating the Suns at home by 7 in their last game. Bit fortunate in the Suns game, because Devin Booker ended up getting injured and missed the entire fourth quarter, and they were losing up to that point. Then once Booker ended up getting injured, Phoenix couldn't score the entire fourth quarter, and Atlanta came back and won the game. But either way, a win's a win, and Atlanta has the Hawks have won 2 in a row. So for this matchup, for the head-to-head history, Atlanta is 1-0, faced off in Indiana in late October, and they won by 20. Now, this game's actually taking place at 1:30 in the afternoon, so kind of a random schedule there. We have 2 daytime games tomorrow, but either way, this is going to be the early game at 1:30 p.m. Now, for this matchup, a couple of ways to look at it. One is that Indiana maybe found something last game against OKC, or the other way to look at it is that was the Pacers Super Bowl, and they decided, you know what, we're in OKC. We haven't been here since they beat us in Game 7. Wouldn't it be funny if we won one? And now they won the game, and they'll go back to being terrible again. That's possible, too. So once again, a couple ways to look at it. I think for this one, I'm going to go with Atlanta in this game. I think I prefer the under, though, as my favorite play in this matchup, because we saw Indiana play decent defense against OKC, held OKC to just 114, played Boston, they only scored 104, played Philly, only scored 104, played Detroit, only scored 78. So Indiana's offense, even in wins, has not exactly been lighting it up lately. For Atlanta's defense, yes, it's not very good. I get it, but they gave up 103 to Phoenix, gave up 110 to Milwaukee. I do think there is some type of defensive areas where they can have success against this Pacers team. So for me, I like the under. I think that 232.5 is a little bit high when I don't really trust either offense to light it up consistently. And I do think this game should be, once again, somewhere in the 220s. I think 232.5 is a bit high. I'll go for the under in this game. I do think for Atlanta, I will pick them on the side, but I feel better about the under. I just see either one of these teams struggling or both of these teams struggling offensively, which should result in a lower scoring, once again, actual matchup. I'll go for the under for this game. I think that this number is a little bit high. Moving on to the next game, Sixers taking on the Hornets. Now, we saw the Sixers have a game against the Knicks where they trailed for most of it, had a pretty decent effort there in the fourth quarter, but either way, they ended up losing the game to the Knicks. For the Hornets, and we know that this team's played a bit better lately, they're laying 3.5. The over-unders at 227.5. Now, for the recent form, said before, Philly just lost to the Knicks. They've been kind of up and down for the last week or so. Charlotte, though, has won 3 of the last 4, so nice job by them. You're looking at the injury report for this game. It's a bit early, but the real question, as always, is will Joel Embiid play? The answer is no. Embiid dropped 38 against the Knicks and said, you know what, I'm good, and is not playing on Monday. So you'll see a lot of Andre Drummond in this game at center. We know earlier this year, Drummond was pretty good as the starter. So we'll see if that ends up having a good, I'd say, moment for Drummond again to get back on track, maybe a walk-in double-double. We'll see what happens. For Charlotte, look, I understand why they're favored. But the real question is, do I think Embiid is worth that many points? And I don't really think so. You could argue that it's a bit of an overreaction based on the spread. Paul George is also out, by the way, for this game. It is the front end of a back-to-back, so they decided to sit George and Embiid for this game. The question is, if Embiid and Paul George were playing, is Philly favored in this game? I would say probably. Probably not by a lot. I'd assume 1.5, give or take. So I guess, I'd say, assuming that both those guys together are worth 5 points? I don't know if I agree with that. But at the same point, I think I like the way Charlotte's playing more recently anyway. So even though I'm kind of playing devil's advocate with myself here, which is Philly maybe being a bit disrespected based on the injury report, I'd say correction, or I was looking at Charlotte's recent form. But Philly, I still am not really sold on. I really don't like their late-game offensive execution. You could argue maybe it's Maxey getting a little bit too ball-hoggish, which could be an issue too. But I'll go for Charlotte in this game. I think Charlotte's play better basketball. I do think Philly late in games is concerning offensively, and I've seen it on numerous occasions, whether it involved the, for example, Cavs game that we saw about a week or two ago where Tyson dropped 39. You get my point, but I think Charlotte right now is playing good ball. I do think that you're looking at a spot where Charlotte maybe wins a close game, but I do think Charlotte is actually kind of building something. I'm not going to say it's going to get them to a play-in spot. It might, who knows. We have a long way to go so far this season. But I do think Charlotte right now at full strength has the better overall roster. And I do think that Charlotte, with their depth, can give this team some problems. So I'm going to go with Charlotte minus 3.5. I see Norris asking about no Embiid, no Paul George. Is Maxey potentially going to hit his prop line? It's at 30.5. I see Free saying that he likes the under, as he's under in 7 of the last 10. I do think that Maxey, if the Sixers do win this game, I think Maxey has to go for 30. I don't really see much of an alternative for him to struggle and for Philly to win this game anyway. So I don't mind the under for Maxey. Of course, the volume's a concern, because if he ends up taking 25 shots, you might have some problems on your hands. But I don't mind that angle. You can argue that Charlotte might make anybody else beat them. We'll see if, Oubre or the other guys actually step up in this game. But there are two real angles for me. One would be, in my opinion, the Hornets minus 3.5. The other would be the throwback play that we took all the time in the first couple months of the season. Andre Drummond, double-double, assuming the price is not that expensive. Moving on to the next game. You have the Magic taking on the Cavs. Now, for this game, Cavaliers are laying 4.5. The over-under is at 226.5. I see 227.5 actually now. So the line actually has moved. So let me just quickly fix that. So we saw Orlando have a bit of a moment, and then they immediately struggled again, as Orlando did win 3 out of 4. Then they ended up playing the Grizzlies again internationally. They lost, played the Hornets at home, got buried by 27, and played Cleveland and lost at home by 14. So deja vu game here, but there is a travel spot because Orlando was at home against Cleveland. Now they are on the road. Now, there were a couple of things that kind of jumped out in the last meeting. First of all, they couldn't guard Donovan Mitchell, who took 30 shots. He had 36 points. But either way, the point is we saw in the playoff series last year as well. This team really cannot guard Mitchell, and that's been on display for a while now. And with Suggs coming back and everything, it still hasn't really mattered too much. Mitchell's just a problem for this team defensively to handle. And I do question if they'll be able to make any adjustments for the second game, because Cleveland won by 14, and Mitchell was the only guy to score 18-plus points. Tyson at 17. Mobley and Allen combined for 21. So it wasn't even like any of the supporting cast guys actually had a great game. I mean, Tyson had 17 on 5 of 9 shooting, so he was solid. But Mobley was 4 of 14. Allen was 3 of 5. Nobody else really kind of stepped up. And Hunter, we know, was injured. He didn't play in that game. I just think Orlando's got problems. I know Banchero made some comments saying that we have to play better. At the same point, talk is cheap. We saw Franz Wagner come back for the Germany game and then immediately not play again. So I don't actually know how healthy he is. But I think I'm going to go with Cleveland again. At least Cleveland right now is playing better basketball than Orlando. Orlando has not been good on the road all season long. Cleveland, don't look now. They've actually won 5 of the last 6. Now, the one loss was to the Thunder, which makes sense. They lost by 32 points. But besides that, they've won 5 of the last 6. So I like how they're playing. I do think they're starting to figure some things out. They're still injured, of course, with Garland and with Hunter. But Orlando's got bigger issues when it comes to, if you want to argue, Banchero being number 1. I've talked about that before. If you want to argue about the injury report with Franz, that's another thing to talk about. Or even just the head coaching situation. And you talk about how the offense has not been that great, and the defense has been kind of up and down this entire season. Orlando feels like that type of team that you see in every single season of either basketball or any other sport, where the expectations are high for a team to make a certain leap in terms of trajectory. And for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. You know what I'm talking about? I'm sure there are a couple of teams you could think of across all the major sports leagues where people are hyping them up all off season. It seems like this is the time for this young team to blossom and to figure it out. And for whatever reason, they're just stuck in the exact same spot they have been. And they're just not able to make the leap that they were expected to make. That's how I treat this Orlando team. They just don't look very good. And maybe the argument is that the Magic are dealing with too many injuries, and maybe they just need Franz to play regularly, and this will all work itself out. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it might be a coaching thing. I just feel like, I know it didn't exactly work out right now with the Knicks. We'll see what happens in the playoffs and all, but they were tired of, I'd say, a certain ceiling there with Thibodeau and decided to pull the plug and try to improve with Mike Brown. Once again, so far it hasn't really worked out. But the argument could be that Mosley is just not the guy that's going to unlock everything for this Orlando team, especially offensively. And I think that's the bigger conversation here. You could argue that maybe it's Paolo, maybe it's the injuries, but I do think Mosley deserves criticism too. And there are some coaches that are floor raisers, and there are some coaches that are ceiling raisers. I'm not sure if Mosley is the kind of guy that will be able to be a serious ceiling raiser. He might just be a coach that'll lead you to a potential play-in spot, and then maybe you'll win one round in an upset. But that might be all he is. So keep an eye out for the offseason, because you trade a bunch of picks away for Bane to improve the offense, and yet the team is still not very good. So I wonder if it's coaching, and we'll see in the offseason if they don't actually improve this season. They might have a different guy on the bench next year. Just keep an eye out for that. But I still think that Orlando's got problems. So I'm going to go with Cleveland, minus 4.5. Even though I have not liked this team all season, and they've also been a team that has underachieved, at least they're showing signs of improvement. Being 5-1 in the last 6, despite all the injuries, is still a good sign for Cleveland. So I think Orlando, once again, is just a team that I don't want to bother with. And Franz is confirmed out for this game. Give me Cleveland. Minus 4.5. I see Free mentioning that Paolo is the problem. Look, you don't have to say that nobody wants to admit it. I've been roasting Paolo on the show for about 2 straight years. So you're talking to the wrong guy. I know Terrell's been the Paolo defender on this show. I have been calling out Paolo for a long time for his style of play. Not to mention he's one of the least efficient jump shooters in the entire league. So Free, you're talking to the wrong guy. Because I have been very anti-Paolo before anybody else on this show. And I want to say before most of the media, I was pretty early to the Paolo criticism And I've been sticking with it for this actual point. But I think it's Mosley too. I think that Mosley's proven he's fine, but he's just not the kind of guy that's going to be able to get this team to where they're projected to be, at least in my opinion, with this current roster makeup. I see a question from Bear talking about if I want to acknowledge the Derrick Rose jersey retirement. It's look, it's going to be a pretty interesting topic because Derrick Rose, when you look at his overall career, it wasn't very long, especially with Chicago, because he got injured all the time. Then he bounced around. He had the random 50-piece with Minnesota. I'm sure most people forgot he was on Minnesota. Then he was on the Knicks. He jumped around to a lot of different teams. And it's he won an MVP. He was going to be one, and then injuries killed him. And that kind of killed the Bulls franchise for a bit as they were competing for the 1 seed almost every year with Thibodeau as the coach, etc. Look, there are two ways to evaluate Derrick Rose. One is the logical career trajectory and the career, I'd say, stats, which tells you that he is one of the classic what-if stories. What if he didn't get hurt? Would he be an all-time great player? A lot of, I'd say, once again, projection based on what we saw during the limited prime run that we saw with Rose. You could also argue he never got to his prime because he got hurt very young. The other way to look at it, which I think is the justifiable way for him getting his jersey retired, is how much he actually meant to the Bulls and how much he actually meant to the city of Chicago. Because Derrick Rose was a homeborn guy to Chicago through and through, went to Memphis, lost the title game to Kansas and then Mario Chalmers game, came to Chicago with the impossible probability of them winning the lottery, which I believe was like 0.1%. They had the lowest chance to win the lottery in the first place. They got the homegrown guy who suddenly made the team fun again. In the post-Jordan era, the Bulls sucked. They were really bad. And everyone kind of turned, I'd say, to other sports. The Blackhawks were good. You had the Cubs and White Sox that were, hanging around. White Sox won a World Series randomly in the early 2000s. Then Rose shows up and suddenly everyone's interested again in the Bulls. And if you actually talk to Chicago people about Derrick Rose, they treat him like he's one of their own sons. So I understand it. You could argue, once again, he wasn't there that long. You could argue that his overall time in Chicago doesn't warrant him getting his jersey retired. I disagree in this case. He meant more to Chicago than arguably any athlete besides Michael Jordan. I think it's warranted. Bulls fans love him. The whole city of Chicago loves him. And that's good enough for me. I'm fine with it. I think that he is worthy of getting his jersey retired in this case. I think it makes sense to me. I'm fine with it. If you want to argue about the Basketball Hall of Fame down the road, then we have a Brandon Roy argument. I would not vote for him to make the NBA Hall of Fame because, well, first of all, there is none. It's including college. So I would not vote for him to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But for Chicago, hell yeah. Why not? What do the Bulls have? Before Jordan, they had nothing. After Jordan, they had Derrick Rose for a little bit that made them think they could win a title. Good enough for me. I think that's good enough. I'm fine with Derrick Rose getting his jersey retired. Good for him. Good for the city of Chicago. That's all I have to say. I think that it was a very nice ceremony, and he was one of my favorite players. And it's a shame how his career played out. You play out Derrick Rose's career 10 times. This is probably the worst outcome out of the 10. He was a phenomenal player. He is this generation's Brandon Roy, and it sucks. That's all I have to say for the Derrick Rose jersey retirement. Moving on to the next game here. Actually, before we get into the next game, a reminder that we're brought to you by our sponsor, which is AVO. So you can make more money betting on sports with AVO. That's AVO. AVO is the best sports betting tool that helps you make a profit every time you decide to place bets. They allow you to find arbitrage and plus V opportunities, and a reminder that you can also check out the video guides that they have. So if you don't know what arbitrage is or you want some advice, they can give it to you because they have video step-by-step guides teaching you how to apply some of these betting concepts to your arsenal. So once again, check it out. And a reminder, I get started now at avo.bet. And if you use the code SGPN for $18 off, that's avo.bet, code SGPN for $18 off your purchase. We're also brought to you by Kalshi, so you can make real money predicting sports, available in all 50 states. And a reminder, you can also trade a bunch of markets and sports at the NFL, college football, college basketball, the NBA, NHL, and more, even tennis, if you want to look at the Aussie Open. But you'd also trade touchdowns, like first touchdowns. One game left, so you want to go for the Super Bowl, and you want to go for the first touchdown score. You can predict it with Kalshi. But a reminder, besides sports, they have a bunch of other fields. They have politics, entertainment, and even the weather. It's been snowing like crazy over here. So you could have predicted how many inches of snow New York would end up getting if you want to be very, very degen, which, of course, is encouraged on this channel. But a reminder, if you are new to Kalshi, we have good news for you. Get $20 for free at sign up if you use the code SGPN. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, code SGPN for a free $20 at sign up at Kalshi. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finished going through the first couple games on the card. Time to move on into the next game. Moving on to Portland, taking on Boston. Now, for this game, the Celtics are favored. They're laying 8.5, and the over-under is at 223.5. So for this game, we know Boston had a bit of a war there against the Nets. It's a miracle they won the game. As a Nets fan, look, there are a couple ways to look at it. As a Nets fan, one, how the hell do you lose containment with 1 second left on an inbound pass for a wide-open 3-up-3? On the other hand, a nice tanking loss, because why do I want my team to win when my team has no chance of doing anything in the playoffs? So I guess in the long term, it's a win. But for Boston, they pulled the rabbit out of their hats, and they won a game they had no business winning. For this game, though, they're laying 8.5, and the over-under is 223.5. Now, Portland has been better lately. They've won 4 of the last 5, lost to Toronto in their last game by 12. Only scored 98 in that game, which is not ideal. Boston, we know, is very good this season. They are 28-17. They're in first place in the Atlantic, actually. We saw them beat the Nets barely, and then they lost to the Bulls right after because everyone was exhausted, and it was a really bad scheduling spot. But either way, it was a loss nonetheless. So Boston's been kind of up and down lately. Boston right now is 4-4 in their last 8 games. This spread feels massive to me. I understand that Portland on the road, they're traveling East Coast, not exactly the best spot for a West Coast team, but 8.5 feels way too big for me. And I do think that Boston, even though this team does have a lot of talent, they are still so heavily three-point dependent that if any three-pointers aren't really falling, they can lose to anybody, which we have seen before. I'll go Portland in this game. I think 8.5 is too many. Boston might win the game. I don't mind Boston 1-10. But I do think, based on Boston's recent form, this feels disrespectful to Portland. They're not that bad on the road. They're 10-12, which is fine. I think Portland, with the form they've been playing in, yes, they had a bad offensive game against Toronto. I mean, it's going to happen when you play 80-plus games in a season. But I do think that the Trailblazers can make this competitive. And I know Avdi is questionable, so we'll see if he ends up playing in this game. I would probably wait to see if Avdi was going to play before pulling the trigger on Portland. But this line does feel pretty large to me. And I do think that I'm going to go with Portland for this one. Give me the Blazers plus 8.5 for this road game. Moving on to the next game. Looking at the matchup between the Lakers and the Bulls. Lakers laying 1.5. The over-under is at 237.5. So the line actually has gone up a bit since I made these banners for the lines. But either way, total's gone up, and the Bulls are dogs at home. Now, the Lakers, the last time we saw them, they had a game against Dallas where they were up by a decent amount, then forgot how to play for the entire third quarter, and then rallied to win. So Luka had a great game. Ayton was hilariously terrible, and a bunch of videos went around the internet because he was 4 of 16 from the floor. But either way, a win's a win. And Luka had 33, 8, and 11. He had 15 free throw attempts. What else is new? So that definitely helped out. But either way, nice win for the Lakers. But it got dicey for really no reason because they were leading for the entire first half. They no-showed the entire third quarter and then had to rally to beat a bad Dallas team. But they've won 3 of the last 4, so we'll see how they look in this game. I think I'll go for Chicago in this game. The Bulls, we know, tend to hover around 500 every year. Giddey's healthy again. The Bulls, though, are 15-9 at home. Now, the Lakers, coincidentally, are also 15-9 on the road. So both teams are pretty good in this exact environment. Now, we saw last year the Bulls beat them on a Josh Giddey half-court game winner after LeBron choked the game away. Here, the line feels very trappy to me. I think most people would look at this line and say, why are the Lakers only laying 1.5? You have Luka, you have LeBron. What do the Bulls have? Josh Giddey, who may or may not come off the bench. Why are the Lakers small favorites? I'm going the other way. I think this is very, very trappy. I think the Bulls are playing good basketball, have success against this Lakers defense, and the Bulls have won 4 in a row. You know, the Bulls we know have been streaky all season. Classic Billy Donovan, play-in 500 type vibes. I'll go Bulls here. I do like the over in this game. I see a bunch of points. But I don't think this line is, once again, I don't think the odds makers messed up here. I think the Lakers are pretty trappy. And I do think the Bulls are pretty live to win this game. So I'll go Bulls here. I'll dare the Lakers to play some defense. And we know the Bulls don't play much defense. Give me the over in this game. If Giddey ends up playing like 30-plus minutes here, triple-double watch for Giddey. Keep an eye out for that. But I do think this will be a close game, a fun game. I'll go for the over, and I'll go for the Bulls in this matchup. Moving on to the next game. Grizzlies taking on the Rockets. You know I can't stand the Rockets as massive favorites, but they're laying 10.5, and the over-under in this game is about 222.5. Now, for the update, for the injury report here, a reminder, Ja's out for 3 weeks. What else is new? We see this every single year. So we got Cam Spencer as the starting point guard. Besides that, though, update, Ty Jerome closing in on his season debut. He's about 1 or 2 weeks away. I'll believe it when I see it. Anyway, point is Rockets are laying 10.5. We know Houston this season has been fine, but not as good as expected. And Memphis has been injured to hell and back. So they've been the same team we've seen from Memphis for a while. Memphis was supposed to play on a back-to-back, actually. And their game against Denver got postponed because of weather. So they did not play. So it was supposed to be a bad scheduling spot for Memphis, but it ended up not happening because of snow. So they ended up postponing the actual game. Now, Houston has been better lately. They are 4-1 in their last 5. They lost to Philly in overtime, beat Detroit, beat San Antonio, beat New Orleans, and beat Minnesota. So a decent collection of wins. The win against Detroit on the back-to-back on the road was very nice, and Cade did play in that game. So Houston defensively has played better. They have allowed less than 112 points in, I believe it's 5 of their last 6. Let me just make sure about that. 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. Yeah, 5 of their last 6. So defensively, they played pretty well. For Memphis, I actually don't mind Spencer at point guard. I think he's actually pretty good. But the question is, do I think Memphis is, I'd say, capable of keeping this game close? And based on their defensive numbers lately, probably not. They gave up 124 to Atlanta and then 133 to New Orleans. So I think their defense is, simply put, bad. Like, they have been not guarding anybody lately, but 10.5 is a lot of points for Houston. I don't mind going for a Houston first half angle instead of the full game, but I think the Grizzlies will hang in there. I do think Houston's a team that I just don't trust to win by margin in a game-in, game-out basis. We've seen them struggle in the fourth quarter. It started to get better in that area. Shout out to the Spurs game where they came all the way back. But I do think 10.5 is a lot of points. When the entire season, I've just been very skeptical of trusting the Rockets to cover these big numbers. They seem capable of winning games, but not really by margin consistently. So I'm going to go for the Grizzlies plus the 10.5. I don't mind the Rockets 1-10 in this game. I see, in my opinion, a 7-point win for Houston. They've proven time and time again they don't care about style points. They just want to win games. So I'll go for the Rockets here to win, but not cover. Give me the Rockets 1-10 in this game. Moving on to the last game on the card. You have the Warriors taking on the Timberwolves. Now, we saw them play on Sunday. Well, to be fair, one team showed up. The other team did not. So Golden State won by a bunch of points. They won by 26. You're looking at Curry, who had a very good game, scored 26 points in only 28 minutes. For Minnesota, we saw Ant have 32, DiVincenzo had 22, and Randall had 11. Now, here's where it gets a bit dicey for Minnesota. Those were the only 3 players on the entire Timberwolves team to score more than 5 points in the entire game. The 3 players, Randall, DiVincenzo, and Ant, were the only people on the entire team to score 6+ points, which is absolutely insane. But Minnesota couldn't have shot, just simply put. Now, for this game, you could argue that Minnesota will be pissed off because they no-showed the entire home game against Golden State, and now they're going to be motivated, and they'll get some revenge, and it's a deja vu game, all that stuff. I don't really care. I have Minnesota grouped in with Houston as teams that I just never want to lay points with. This is a massive spread. I have no interest. Now, of course, the concern for Golden State is they're an older roster. Are they going to sit people on back-to-backs? Why would they? None of their starters played basically the entire fourth quarter. Draymond played 23 minutes. Al Horford started. He played 23 minutes. Curry played 28. Nobody really played any serious minutes, so I think they'll all play again in this game. But Minnesota, I know that the overall record is still fine at 27-19. They are just absolute frauds in my book, and I've been calling it all season. I don't like this team at all, and I don't think that this is a team that I want to bet on really ever as a favorite. I am so out on this team. Ant gives you 32 points. Even DiVincenzo gives you 22. So a combined 54 points from those 2 guys, and you still lose by 26 at home? I'm good. I'm good. Give me Golden State in this game. I don't mind Golden State money line. I know it goes against all deja vu principles, and you can argue that Minnesota will look more engaged and they'll show up for this game. I don't even care. I don't want to lay 7.5 with this, in my opinion, catastrophe in Minnesota. I know the record isn't that bad, but watching them play game in, game out, I am so out on this team. Give me Golden State, a plus the 7.5. I'll go for the under in this game. Even though Minnesota got killed, they only gave up 111. They gave up 47 points in the first half. So I think defensively they can give Golden State problems, but I do think that Minnesota's offense is also not great because the supporting cast and the bench are still not very good. So give me the under in this game and give me the Timberwolves to, in my opinion, maybe lose outright in this game. Give me Golden State plus the 7.5 for the spread. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for all the games here on the card. Time to run into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. So once again, if you like pick 'em entries, chance to win 5,000 times your entry. You check out the playoff magic, all playoffs long. Every bunch of profit boosts. So if you're interested in getting some pick 'em entry profit boosts, recommend checking out Underdog Fantasy. And if you're new to the platform, great sign-up deal for you. Play just $5, get $75 bonus funds. You sign up with the promo code NBA SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. So they've been great this end of the season. Only 1 game left in the entire season. And a reminder, you can also check them out for other sports. Golf started recently. Check that out. You can also check them out for college football, for WNBA when that season starts up. Bunch of options. MLB, which starts in a couple of months. Rhythm, though, is great for model building as well. A couple ways to do it. You can build your own from scratch. You copy one for the leaderboard, or let Rhythm just provide plays with their own house model. So check out models in sports books, in sports bets, and you definitely can apply it to your sports betting process to make some more money. But if you want to check out Rhythm and you want to get the premium version of the platform, we have a nice sign-up deal for you. So if you want to go premium, go to Rhythm, go to the app, and use the code SGPN25. When you download the app, and you'll get a quarter off your first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMM, code SGPN25 for 25% off your first month at Rhythm. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Game Podcast. Finished going through all the games on Monday. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Now, for the lock on the show, where do I want to go with this one? Okay, sure. For the lock, you know what? I'm going to go with the... Yeah, I'm going to do it. Give me the Cavaliers, minus 4.5 in this home game. Once again, I think it's a good spot for Cleveland. I understand that Cleveland's a team that has given us all, I'd say, problems throughout the first couple months of the season, but they are 5-1 in the last 6. The Magic, simply put, look broken, and Franz is not playing again on Monday. That's confirmed. We've seen number one option Paolo this season. It has not been pretty, and we know Mitchell, who just had 36 against this team a couple days ago, gets a phenomenal matchup every time he plays this team. Suggs has been in and out of the lineup all season. I don't think he can guard Mitchell. I don't think Black can guard Mitchell. It's just a serious problem, not to mention Allen and Mobley on the interior and Orlando not being that great of an outside shooting team. I think it's a good matchup for Cleveland at home. I'll go for the Cavs -4.5 as my lock for the show. For my dog, you know what? I think I am going to go for a same game parlay for this one. I'm going to go with the Trailblazers plus the 8.5. I do think the spread's a bit high. And I will throw in the what I want to go with for this one. I'm wondering if I want to go for the under in this game because I think that Portland can do a good job against this offense. I'll do it. Give me Portland plus the 8.5 and give me the under 223.5, and that 2-pick pays out at plus 232. That'll be my dog for the show. Moving on to Underdog for this collection of games. So once again, we might have some limited options here on Underdog, but let me just see what's available for us to use. So starting off with the first option here, let me just see, if there's anything I'm interested in. You know what? I am going to go with this. Give me Gary Payton II lower, 12.5 PRA. Yeah, he's been horrendous. He's had less than 12 PRA in 8 straight games. In the game that happened on Sunday, he had 2. He played a grand total of 9 minutes. So good enough for me. Give me a Gary Payton II lower, 12.5 PRA. Seems like they're starting to kind of phase him out of the rotation a little bit. And we know that his offensive skills are, let's say, not the reason why he's still in the NBA. So give me Gary Payton II lower, 12.5 PRA as my first choice for Underdog. I will go with a play that was mentioned earlier by the chat. I am going to go with Tyrese Maxey lower, 30.5 points. Yes, I know Embiid and Paul George are out, but the number does feel a bit high. He has gone lower than this number in 13 of the last 20. If you want to look at the numbers without Embiid and without Paul George, I can pull that up for you as well. So far this season, without Embiid and without Paul George, he has gone lower this number in 6 of the last 10. I just think 30.5 is a lot of points. I get that it's inflated, and I do think it's inflated a bit too much. Give me the lower on his points there. And last but not least, you know what? I'll go with the guy who's actually been pretty good for Indiana recently. He had a monster game against the Thunder last time out, and we know that Indiana has a bunch of injured players. So I'm going to go with Andrew Nembhard, actually. I'm going to go with his higher 25.5. Is it 25.5 or is it different? Sorry, let me just quickly see if it is different somewhere. Nembhard. I don't know if they actually have the Nembhard PA, which would be really annoying if they didn't have the Nembhard PA, but I might have to pivot if they don't have that. No, I see it. So Nembhard, we're going to go with the higher 25.5 PA. I think it's a good matchup here. I think that Nembhard, who's been very good lately, he's at least 29 PA in 3 of the last 4, at least 26 PA in, doing the math right now, 6 of the last 9. And we know Atlanta defensively has not been great. Give me Nembhard to go higher on the 25.5 PA. So once again, the underdog entry here, we're going to go with Gary Payton II, lower, 12.5 PRA. Tyrese Maxey, lower, 30.5 points. And Andrew Nembhard, higher, 25.5 points and assists. Anyway, let's wrap it up for the show. Once again, apologies for the late recording time. It wasn't supposed to happen so late, but I guess things happen. It is what it is. Either way, though, till next time, good luck to all of you and all of